You're on Movie Baiters with the Farx Brothers. We're on with Alex Rumsey.
You just need to say that. I love this Chaucer character so much.
Vision?
Yeah, Vision. Also,
that's what my kids said when they saw him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And the tertiary characters in this film, like all the people, all the crowd, Roland and who's the other guy? The Alan Tudyk.
Oh, he's a character based on somebody who led like a revolt against somebody. Sorry.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, he's based on something real. Watt is his name?
Yes, Watt.
W-A-T.
Yes. And then particularly Adamar's Harold. I have been so fascinated recently with all like non-main characters and their like how much they add to stories and how you can really make a huge performance out of not being the main character. And everyone in this just nails it. They're amazing. It's so great.
So one of the things in this movie that I think is good and subtle, that I'm not trying to be political, is that the romantic interest is not white. And like
she's not?
I don't think so. I mean, she looks like she could be a person of color. And the anachronistic thing that would get, we would do potentially, hey, if you're doing the music and you're doing the wave, why wouldn't you put more black and Asian people in the background of this movie?
That's true. They definitely could have been more diverse with their casting for sure.
I can see casting white people to play people who would have maybe been white, but then there's also like the argument that maybe they wouldn't have been based at this point in history. Because in Gladiator, it's like, well, Denzel Washington would have been black in Gladiator 2, that real person was specifically not a black person, but Denzel's so funny that like put him in there, it makes it way more entertaining. Wait, Kirk, what were you disagree with me on the race thing?
Well, I just don't think it was important enough that it took me out of the movie. It didn't take me out of the movie, so I don't think I registered that she wasn't white in the movie.
I have no idea what her ethnicity is.
I'd say she's pretty, I believe the agencies would call her racially ambiguous. There she could be a mini number of ethnicities. So.
There's a New Zealand guy whose name I can't remember who has played Hispanic in an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. He's played South Asian, which is different than being from Colombia. And I think he played Native American in a movie.
It's a wide range.
Yeah, well, he has not had to do that as much lately. Again, apologies for not. As someone who's gone through those like casting things and has done casting herself, can you give an example of like the worst thing you've heard in one of these? Because I get that gives me, and we were just talking about anxiety before getting on mic, and it gives me a lot of anxiety to think like, well, we know this and this matter, but like I don't care about how tall this person is, what race they are. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
you're laughing, so it's good.
I was on a recent commercial shoot, and my co-actor and I were at the fitting, and the stylist was saying that I am a white female with like dark hair and piercings and tattoos and stuff like that, and the actor I was with was like a black guy with like long, I think he has longer hair. Yeah. Anyways, the stylist was saying how excited she was to be working with both of us, and that the other director, producer people weren't sure whether our looks went together. And the thing she said to me, she was like, "Oh, but I told them, Alex, like you're just weird enough for this to make sense."
Wow.
And I was like,
what does that mean? Yeah.
Who is that?
What does weird mean?
I don't know. And like, is that like, are you meaning like I'm edgy looking and he's like white lace? Like, what's the like more like clean cut looking? And or if it's this like a race thing? I was very confused, and the other actor and I just kind of like looked at each other and kind of like just like moved on. But that was probably the weirdest comment I've heard.
Well, and it goes back to discussing, debating, if the movie's already going to be anachronistic, and it is on some level, why not be inaccurate in that way too? How would you know no, they're looking for a person that's a woman, but then they put women presenting, and I just want to be as little as possible to get the people I need for a project usually?
I think more projects need to be less concerned about like race and gender and think about how anyone could play a specific role.
Sure.
Like there's a film that I'm auditioning for right now that has like a male character and a female character, and I was practicing lines with Joy, and we were reading for each other's parts, and we're like, dude, this could totally be like two women. That would be totally good. So I think people just need to reconsider like flip-flopping roles and genders. And
could you be more specific about the relationship between the male-female characters you're auditioning for?
There was it was a friendship with a little bit of like a friend romance thing.
Oh, what's a friend romance?
Like friends with benefits, kind of.
Oh, okay. Sometimes like, oh man, I'm so in love with you, and I'm more in love with you. Like, I love Kirk, and I'm more in love with him than some of my other friends, but not like that.
That's new. Yeah.
What? You didn't know that I cared about you more?
More in love. Yeah.
I love you on the podcast.
Aw.
I'm trying to be
We love each
emotionally
other, but
healthy
yeah.
that way.
Not that this is just I know you want to debate, but I agree with you in that this
I
could have
agree
been.
it's not a debate.
It could have been way more diversely cast, especially if they're not caring about like costumes and music and all that kind of stuff.
One of the signs of intelligence is to be able to argue the other side of an issue, and then I'm trying to think of how I'd bait myself. Like, no, like I already said it. To remain accurate in this way so that you're focused on the tone thing they're doing, which is the music, the hair, and some of these other minor things.
Sure.
Then that's why. And I don't care about that. Here's why, since you made a lot of fun of me in the non-spoiler section about
Yes, we are now in the spoiler section.
averse to this movie because it was marketed to me as a chick flick, even though you rightly said it's a chick flick but a sports story as well. And I heard actually someone pitched that to me in a line at a film festival I was at, where she was working like seriously on a script that was a sports story that was also a romance. So am I allowed to say that anymore? What's your stance on what is a chick flick?
And so what?
Well, things are marketed to both, like there are things that are marketed to men, like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies in the 80s and 90s were marketed to men, and those kinds of movies now mostly go to DVD and are direct marketed at the kinds of people who like those. Like Transformers has disgusting male gazy looks at women. And I'm not correcting myself, like I was uncomfortable at the time. I enjoyed them as a young teen boy, but I don't show those Transformers movies to my daughters because I don't want them to think that is okay yet. Eventually society's going to let them know that. So like, ugh.
Well, maybe if we put things into less boxes, people wouldn't feel so like that you didn't want to see it because you thought it was a chick flick. So things are obviously marketing. Like you're not gonna not market a horror movie as a horror because that is a specific audience that wants to see it. But if there's less categories of like, well, this goes for men and this is for women, and like, what does that mean? Like, who cares?
Here's a different example. And like, I see how it definitely plays into your job on a regular basis as an actor. What about how they're marketing musicals as not being musicals? Because people don't think they like musicals, and then they get into them and they do like them. Like there are plenty of movies that I've now watched as I still am not that into 10 Things About You. Would you agree that that's more of a, and I'm going to keep using this term. If this term offends you and you're listening, I apologize. I'm not using it with malice. Chick flick. You don't seem upset by it, so that's why I'm continuing to use it.
Well, I mean, I also think there's a difference between calling something a genre that it was and it fits into that category. I'm saying moving forward, if we took down some of those walls and categories, then maybe it could appeal to more people without them automatically assuming they're not going to like it because it's in this category that they think they don't like because they don't want it. They're afraid what it means if they give it a chance.
Yeah, this conversation happened around Barbie last year in 2023 when it came out up next to Oppenheimer. Now, a lot of people were...
Would you consider that a chick flick? I didn't think Barbie as a chick flick.
It's... Well, agreed, it is not. It's a comedy. It's a fish out of water comedy.
Yeah.
That's the genre one might use. But it was definitely marketed more to women because on the opening day, 2 out of every 3 people that saw it were women. Yeah, but it's also
Barbie, though. I mean, that's kind of an automatic marketing, right?
Well, boys can play with Barbies. That's fine.
Yeah, but
it wouldn't have been as accepted 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Historically, Barbie was marketed towards cis women, so But I don't think Barbie would be a chick flick. I just think that take down some labels, and then because people are afraid of what it says about them if they like a specific genre movie. It's more about societal norms and expectations. So if we take away some of those titles, then people don't have to feel the shame over like you liking musicals now. Like, why is that?
I liked musicals when I was a 14-year-old boy too, and I would have liked this movie when I was 14 if I had seen it at 14. I just didn't know from the marketing that it wasn't. I thought it was one thing, and it turned out not to be. And I'm telling you, I was wrong. Why are you putting me in this? Sorry, continue. You have a thought, and I don't want to stumble.
No, I think I finished my thought.
Okay, so that's why I had feminism in the agenda because I was going to argue that because this movie was marketed to women at the time when we were young children and norming our relationships, and like I hope my daughters don't date till they're out of high school, but I understand reality. Miss homeschool. Did you date when you were in homeschool?
How did that work? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think.
You were wondering. I thought you were church youth group.
Oh, right.
You all paired off in church youth group.
PSEO.
That was frowned upon.
Yes, I dated when I was 16.
Okay. Yeah.
Almost 17. We were going to wait until we were 17, but then
So
we
you
didn't.
talked about it, and then we're
Oh
going
yeah.
to wait.
Oh yeah, for sure. It was a big ordeal. Mhm.
So an anachronistic movie, like that's why I brought up the thing about women are property at this time. What is this? Is like, okay, well, we're gonna graft modern like rom-com vibes, which is a way this movie was marketed to me. It is a comedy. It does have a romance, but it is a sports story, and it's a historical movie. And if you look in its Wikipedia or any others, where it puts it in multiple genres at once.
For sure.
I don't find that to be particularly helpful. That's why I say things like swords and sandals, horsies and cowboys, horsies and knights.
Because you're just wanting to have a more succinct tagline to know if you're going to be interested in it or not. That's why you want like a category like cowboys and Indians or swords and sandals or whatever.
Well, I don't actually think that it would affect my decision to watch something because I watch pretty much everything. That's why I have to go back in time to where I had less access to things easily. And but I do think it matters how it's sold and how I would talk about it to other people and what their expectations are when you talk about it to them.
But I feel like if you have all those different genres like comedy, sports, romance, then to me that piques my interest more than like this is just a straight drama. Like I like it to be multifaceted.
That's because you're a nerd and you like more information. And I mean that as a compliment. I can say that. I'm an N-word nerd. And so I knew I'd get you.
Don't say that. Yeah, come on.
That's a Chris Hardwick joke. That's not even my joke.
Oh, yeah?
He did that in a special 15 years ago. So go look up Chris Hardwick.
Yeah, I know who Chris Hardwick is.
Yeah. Well, he got canceled for other reasons now. But
Oh, yeah, canceled?
I think he came back because they were like, wait a second, she's just... Do you know who that is?
Nope.
See, you're a specific kind of nerd, which is great. I think that the general population needs it to be clear, like which is singing for whatever reason has been really successful at the box office. I think they marketed that well to the same Barbie audience. I don't know why I'm doing your favorite president's hand movements. I know this is an audio show. Kirk's
no one even could see it. It didn't even matter.
I'm in my own head about it, but thank you. Yeah, you win that bait over me on this. I think it's helpful to put something in a genre. I don't think this is a comedy. It has comedy. I see, and I argue with people and say like comedy should be an element of things.
Which it is in this.
Yeah, 100%. It can be like, I laugh at inappropriate times in movies all the time, don't you?
Yes, indeed.
And so for me, that movie was a comedy at that moment. That we talk in the interview, people will hear us talk about a movie you were in where you gave the fair point that it could be considered camp. I shouldn't say what I'm mansplaining literally what you're going to say on the next episode.
Wow. Shot yourself in the foot. All right.
Yeah, there's worse places to shoot yourself.
So you were wanting to bring up the idea of feminism in this movie.
Oh, I was going to try to debate like, oh, it's good to be, I bring in the idea that someone could be seen as an equal and that courting and those, but then I was also going to debate it on the opposite end of the spectrum. Well, that's not a healthy thing to sell to young girls at this time. Wouldn't it be better to sell them the history of, what was that actually like back then?
Because you're saying that it's an unrealistic version of how much authority she has in this, and that's unrealistic for your young girls to see?
Oh, no, I'm going to show this to my kids. I don't have a problem with that. I'm arguing against, like, if I had to come up with an argument against it, I'd be arguing in the context of when it came out in the early 2000s, before the towers fell. Look it up. I'm right.
I know.
It's true.
You don't need to bring that up. Why that specific detail?
Here's why you bring... I made a 9/11 joke walking into a bar once.
Sure, that went over very well.
No, it did. I didn't have to show my ID because they were like, how old are you? I was like, I remember 9/11.
Wow.
And they were like, all right. You can.
Wow. All right.
I'm not laughing at 9/11. I'm saying it's a thing that
exists.
It's the first thing every time I think of the year 2001, I go, oh, there was one part of 2000.
Back to their debate. I don't think...
It's like the year 2020. Sorry, we're in a debate.
Oh, I know, but we don't need to give a historic accuracy. It should just be what the writer wants. We don't need to show them women are treated well in this movie. It should just be a regular thing. Women are equal in this movie. That's it.
But that's not the case. Like, it would seem ridiculous in the movie Gladiator because of the tone.
It's not a historical movie. It's a historical parody piece. So
yes, it's not the same
yeah.
as Gladiator in that way. See, I'm agreeing but disagreeing with you. Of like, how do you agree there's a difference? Like, there's a time when there's a certain level of accuracy that you need to go. Oh, we got a woman wouldn't have this much agency in this situation. Actually,
Yeah, but it's not gonna take me out of the movie though. I don't care how accurate or inaccurate this movie is.
there's a subjective that is binary to you of whether or not you're taken out of it, and the only objective way we can measure it is like, is it a movie that's still talked about 20 years later? How many people paid to go see it when it first came out? There's the awards thing that some people would put stock in. This got nominated for MTV Awards, and in doing research for this conversation, I looked up that actually some noble women could run their feudal lands while the men were gone or away for long campaigns of war, kind of like your D&D thing that'll come up in, I can't remember which section now.
Yeah, I think actually this movie has an interesting balance of female empowerment, even though it still is very much of the trope of Jocelyn's character primarily existing for emotional like fuel for Sir. Wow, what is his name? Well, William is his real name. What is
Ulrich von
Liechtenstein from Gelderland? Yes.
It's very fun to say, Liechtenstein.
Yes, Liechtenstein.
Makes me think
I went to
German.
Liechtenstein just recently,
What?
primarily because of this movie.
Wow,
Wait, you
nice.
went to, is Liechtenstein in, where's that?
It's a country.
It's a country?
The sixth smallest country in the world.
Is it weird? What is it next to?
It's sandwiched right between Austria and Switzerland. It's totally landlocked.
Okay, so it's near Austria, and Austria touches Germany, right?
It does.
When I hear Stein, I either think of Jill Stein or that example from last episode, or Stein, like what Germans drink out of.
Yes,
And
we wanted to
Lichten.
get a Stein from Liechtenstein that was licked inside of, so it'd be a Lichten side of a Stein from Liechtenstein. It was going to be a whole thing for my friend who wanted me to bring him back a souvenir.
Did you buy that Stein?
No, we couldn't find a Stein, so I got a little pint glass instead. It was an opportunity missed, but it would have been brilliant.
Liechtenstein.
I
Get
know.
on that, you morons. You could be selling those on Amazon for, I don't know, $30.
I mean, I'm sure they were there. I just didn't see any.
Oh,
but
okay.
Liechtenstein is a fabulous little country. It's fantastic.
Wait, what is it, smaller than or smaller or bigger than? I know I
I
can
don't know
Google
actually.
this.
I
Okay.
just know it's the sixth smallest. But this being a feminist movie, I also think in history there are examples of women having a lot of control and power in their way. I think there's a movie, The Great, I think, that
There's
I've only
a
watched.
TV show
Yeah, the
called
TV show.
The Great. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
that I've only
watched
seen
that.
little bits of it, but it seems like
It's about how she has no power, and it's very funny.
well, I saw a recent clip where it seems like she is coming into more power of herself.
Yes, that is.
But also then you have Queens and the fabulous musical Six is all about King Henry's wives and how they.
Oh, yes.
But that whole musical is about rewriting history. Anyways,
Sure.
fabulous. But I think though it's problematic that this movie is still like the Jocelyn character doesn't really get to do much other than like
watch
be
the
there for
show.
him.
Yeah.
I do think I haven't rewatched this in a while, so I was expecting it to be more cringy in spots than I remembered. But I think they actually give her more power than she could have had. Like, she gets power in any way that she can, and that's primarily by like standing up for herself, speaking her mind, and putting down like firm boundaries of like what it means to her for him to prove that he loves her. So I think she's actually a pretty strong character, even though she doesn't get much character development.
Well, you got the female blacksmith too.
Yes, Kate. She's fantastic. She's great.
Here's my debate point with she gets more power than she would be normally used to, and like whether or not this is historically accurate doesn't matter because it would be a personal thing. When she's like, I want you to lose the fights, we're in the spoiler section, and then it changes her mind after he's getting his ass kicked. Now I want you to win the fight. That I do not want my daughters to ever try to fuck with somebody that they're, like in that way.
Well, sure. She's being pretty manipulative and
Either end, that would be bad.
yeah, but the point of the reason why she asks him to lose is like totally accurate, because he's like, I will win for you just like everyone else says, and she's like, that doesn't mean anything to me because that's just you being prideful, so sure, tack my name onto the end of it. So her being like, deny yourself, lose, and prove that I'm more important than your like ego. I think is a very valid point, even though it's kind of sucks for him. And then when she says like, okay, thank you, you've done enough, now you can stop losing. Like,
you know what, you got me there. I'm sorry, I didn't have anything.
I feel like this dialogue is so good in this movie, especially when they're in the cathedral and she's like, I want poetry, Ulrich. And he's like, I'm not ready. And she's like, oh, and everything must run on a man's schedule. Right. It's just like, she has some like such good like lines. I love it. Mm-hmm.
That's a very late 90s, 2000s, like, version of feminism. Like, here's a question. Not that I know, not that I arbiter this. What wave of feminism are we on right now? Are we in the third wave, or are you like a fifth wave feminist?
I don't know. I've only recently like been fully leaning into feminism and like learning about it and listening to the classic books and stuff. So I have no idea. I don't know what number we're on.
It doesn't matter. Instead I'm going to pivot to talking about Patty Jenkins, who directed Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman in 1984. She said we're not equal till women get to make as many bad movies as men have. Yeah, that's true. And the only reason I want to debate that idea, you both nodded to it, so I'll debate it. I don't want more bad movies.
That's not true. I don't know what other movies she directed, but Wonder Woman was good, and then Wonder Woman 1984 wasn't as good.
My daughters love it, or like kids love that movie. So
I don't know what movie she's directing next. Because like
she was supposed to be the Star Wars lady.
I will also bring up Wrinkle in Time, the director Ava. Yeah, because I don't think it was a horrible movie, but the movie did make enough money, so then she doesn't get a chance to direct any more movies.
I'm gonna bait you by saying a movie that she made recently, Origin, I very much liked, but it didn't make very much money, and it's based on a book called.
I mean, look at Todd Phillips. Joker 2 bombed. Well, it's not making a lot of money. He's gonna get a chance to make another movie.
He's going to get another chance. Yeah, because he's made two types of billion-dollar franchises.
I'm saying I feel like he purposely failed just so it's like a brag. He could purposely fail and then he'll be fine. But women and women of color only get one chance to do it.
Yeah, I think her point is that what you're saying is that it's more about the opportunity of like, you can't make something great unless you have the opportunity to make it crap a whole bunch of times. So we need everyone, any gender, to be able to make whatever they want and still be given chances and believed, rather than everything being classified of a woman director. Like it should just be what it is, rather than having to have those like genders tacked onto it.
This is sort of a debate point, but later on people are going to hear where you talk about how you've been given the advice to lean into being female for something I don't consider to be a meritorious system, film festivals. Not that, there isn't a standard, just that to some degree at the end of the day, what the tastes of one festival versus another versus what might work in the market, which is ultimately what we all, I hope, care about is, that's populism versus, what wins awards versus what makes that money, I'm pointing out a window, like, out there in the world, like,
yes,
because that matters. Like, this movie kind of made money. I think it's probably made more of its money since in DVDs, and I didn't research that specific topic. Just to be clear, so that I'm not badly stating this, I'm not saying, like, women, people of color shouldn't get to make bad movies. I'm just saying, in a more meritorious system, people would rise up. Like being a blacksmith. If you're a bad blacksmith, you're not going to keep being a blacksmith. Or if you're a bad photographer. Photography is a great example of a meritorious system where you don't give a shit who's behind the camera usually. What do their pictures look like?
Well, that's how it should be, but people they judge people by, a book by its cover all the time. Like in that scene with the blacksmiths where he's going around and everyone's like, nope. And then like, everyone's like, well, our last bottom of the barrel is, well, go talk to the woman. And then she even says, she's like, did you only come to me, like, do they say that because I'm a woman? Mm-hmm. And then they're like, oh no, I mean, it's because you're good with horses but shoddy with armor. And so like, she is saying, to your point, that everyone, like, she's a brilliant blacksmith, but everyone assumes she's not because she's a woman.
Yeah, and I don't think that we progressed beyond that in the 2020s.
Have we?
Yeah, have we?
Excuse me.
You sure about that?
No. Further than we did when women were property,
sure.
And further than, let's say, the late 90s. Like, there are a lot of things that would be unacceptable to do in the workplace today that were acceptable 25 years ago, and that's good, right?
Well, I will tell you that in my job, like as you just said with the photography, that shouldn't be very gendered. That's a pretty like whoever can do it job. But on a regular basis, I also fly drone for my work. And very commonly, people all show up to a job and they'll be like, oh, we're having like aerials done too. And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it. And they'll be like, oh, You're flying the drone too?
Genuinely, I was surprised to learn that you flew a drone. I just didn't like. I didn't think that was. It makes sense to me that you do. I just didn't consider that until I should have with real estate. Because now that I think about it, the other person I dealt. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's just even something like being able to fly a drone is still gendered in the idea of like people assume that because I'm female presenting that it's like not as likely that I would do that.
The greats, when they make a mistake, recover faster. So have you ever flown, what?
No, I don't know where this is going. Like,
that's a weird segue.
It's something I heard, and I'm going to use in athletes, both male and female, what makes Michelle Williams and Tom Brady similar is they make about as many errors as other professional athletes at their level, but they recover from them faster. So have you ever flown drone? And I'm asking for my own personal usage in the future. Mm-hmm. Have you flown drone for anything narrative?
Yes, very, very, very tiny little clips. In the first thing I ever like filmed and produced, which was a music video kind of idea, there was a drone shot in that. And then for The Dogfather, there's one tiny little drone shot.
And you flew it?
Yes.
Sweet. So you're a cinematographer on your movie. Who was the DP? Oh, Adam. So Adam, how did you and Adam talk about that? Sorry, this would be in the interview section. Listen to the next episode, please.
How do we talk about me flying the drone?
No, like, how did you you had to make a shot list, and you're one of the directors, so you and the DP agreed on that shot list, correct?
Well, a lot of the shot list and storyboard had been done some time ago when we had our friend Anthony was still going to be on board.
Okay.
And then when I kind of took over the project, and then when Tristan came on, all of that stuff a lot of it was already established. Okay. So Tristan and I came up with the shot list together and then gave it to Adam. And so that was just kind of, doing a drone shot was kind of baked in from the beginning, just because it would look nice.
And this isn't about the sex-specific conversation and how people are treated at their professions. One of the problems with drone shots to other shots in the movie usually are making the match between the type of camera used on the drone and the type of camera used for most of the movie. Mm-hmm. What was he shooting on?
What was Adam shooting on?
Yeah.
That's a great question that I don't know the answer to.
And then I would ask what kind of drone you were shooting on. And, you know, now I know I can ask you about these things, and that's great. And other people know. And, hey, you should, check your preconceived notions or whatever the guy says in Spider-Verse at the door. I need to reevaluate my...
Pretty industry standard for drones is DJI. And I have a Mavic 2 Pro. It has I'm going to say this wrong, Hasselblad lens or something on it. It's a pretty good cinema lens.
Sweet.
And just made sure that the settings were matched up with what Adam was shooting on for our editor. So just made sure the settings were the same.
Oh, like frames per...
Frames, and there was a different equivalent to shooting on a camera where you can shoot JPEG or RAW. I think there's also a color version of that on film is what I was told, so I just made sure my settings matched the same one as Adam's.
What did you have to change? How do you adjust the settings there? What are the poles of... Sorry, you probably looked it up and did it at the time. And
I mean, I just had my phone open with all the things on, and then Adam was like, oh, you do that, and then that, and change it to that, and I was like, okay. So that's what we did.
I've been in that situation, and there are things I know I don't know, and I have other, I know I don't, like Kirk said, know things about sound.
Yeah.
And I understand concepts like don't bump the bottom of the pole. And,
always helpful.
Helps with the editing, for sure, yeah.
So, I don't have a solution for, yes, there are parts of society, definitely outside the United States, which is why I try to stay oriented there, brought back to America, where women are not treated equally, I work with a guy who traveled in from Saudi Arabia. I was like, women got the right to drive there in the past 10 years, right? He was like, yes, it's very true. And he's got daughters, so
yeah, but I don't think just because we have it better here that we shouldn't be getting better faster. I mean, we should be.
Is that what I was saying?
No, I think you're comparing since people are just learning, women are being allowed to drive in that country, it's better here for women because they've been driving for decades, hundreds of years.
Well, objectively, that is the truth. I'm not using that as an excuse to get out of things. I just wanted that to be clear.
I think it could come off that way, though.
I appreciate that you'd clarify it. Yeah. And that's why I love you, brother.
I love you too.
This is going to be your most emotionally healthy episode you've ever had.
You don't know that. You listen to all of them. You listen to a lot of podcasts.
I've not. Now I will. I should have listened to one of these before I got here.
I should ask people that more when they're on.
If they've listened to your podcast.
Our podcast. I consider it part of the communities.
I said you're in the plural. Your.
You looked me right in the eye.
It's
and
true.
then turned
I'm
to
so
Kirk,
sorry. I'm so sorry. Your podcast.
I was worried about both of the brothers being seen in the light of.
Thank you. Thank you for being so inclusive in your.
Yeah.
I really push back against the idea of inclusivity when I am told that I am inclusive, because I'm like, I'm not. I'm trying to be meritorious. Like, I didn't go, oh, I need a, or how about, oh, are there enough women in the, like, I didn't ask myself that ahead of time. And I think about, I have control of the pools I'm in, and I evaluate, like, is the person of high moral character, which as meritorious, and like, can they do this job? And that, I think, relates directly to where I wanted to go. One of the things, you love this movie, what I'm going to argue against it is that it doesn't give enough of the rich man poor man dynamic in a helpful way. Like, there are asides that show you they understood it. When at the midpoint, they say, well, this guy that the good guy is going to go fight, Heath Ledger, he's bad because he raised taxes on the people in his feudal system to pay for, again, kind of like the gladiators did. I'm going to keep making references to Gladiator. Sorry.
The new one or the original?
Just the point that the Colosseums were there to distract the people from how they were running away with their taxes and screwing them over as a society. So what I want from this movie is more of that. And
a commentary on capitalism?
No, not capitalism, because it's not capitalism. It's a feudal system. I'm trying to think, what was the economic system of feudal times? But the point of capitalism is that it's meritorious, which is why, while I want all peoples to be equals, people aren't equal. You, to me, to Kirk, we're not equal. We have different skills. You know how to fly a drone. I don't know how to fly a drone. Kirk knows how to do sound better than I do. Easy. So, like, I think about that instead of, well, I can't. Because who can say the categories? But something that is very true is, like, economic status is, I should worry about macroeconomics. And movies can do a good job of going, here's what people were experiencing at the time. It doesn't, you like the people in the audience. It doesn't show you whether or not they're suffering as part of the feudal system that will later turn into the Renaissance.
I just don't think that was really the point of the movie. I don't think they were trying to have a strong stance on anything too political, because it's like a fun sports movie, which I'm being distracted by being playing on the screen, noticing way more stuff than I did when I watched it sped up on my computer this afternoon.
Sometime. Bring Joel.
It's so beautiful, the costuming and everything.
We'll watch it with the kids.
I just don't think they, like, talking to Vanessa about stuff, like, you have to kind of choose what your film is trying to do or talk about. And I think they wanted to talk about, like, one person having an underdog story and being the good guy. I don't think they super cared about making some sort of social commentary on, like, how the peasants were being robbed.
You are correct. That is more commercial, and definitely was 23 years ago, 24 years ago when they made this. We know someone going through the problem of having to make it more about the one person kind of thing. I'm just saying there's a line in this movie that is, this guy raised taxes so that he could get more of this, the sport going. There are lots of sports movies that get into the, like, Friday Night Lights, both the TV show and the movie, get into how it affects, like, the socioeconomic means of the people that are, enjoying all this. So I'm saying a couple more lines like that in this movie, and it would be just a notch up for old Kyle on the meter of...
but I would argue Gladiator doesn't touch on that as much either. I mean, they don't. It's service level. It's an action movie. It's not a talk about it or deep think. It's
different debate point then. You're right.
Yeah,
I'm
that
giving
deep.
it to you.
I don't think it's that deep.
I'm shifting baits, and we know that linear listeners are keeping track of every debate and who gets more points right, because that's what you do.
Yeah,
in
imaginary
forensics.
points.
Oh.
Yeah. The points.
Great.
No. Did you? Oh, yeah. I was about to say, did you have forensics in high school? It's like you were homeschooled in post-secondary.
Forensics? You had forensics in high school?
Yeah, that sounds very advanced.
Yeah.
No, forensics can be either one-act plays or debate club. It falls into the category of forensics. My point was going to be all movies are propaganda for something. And we were able to talk about how this movie has a strong feminist stance, and that's great, and still applies today. And I argued against it for like, oh, it's not historically accurate, and that could, miseducate people. It's misinformation. And you guys go, but that movie's not
feminist stance.
Yeah,
it's definitely not like
true.
women. I'm just saying that like
it's a modern.
she's not as dumb and pointless as a lot of movies make women. Like
That's
she,
terrible. I'm sorry. Yes.
which it's not like we're that much better 25 years later. Like this is still as the the manic pixie dream girl is a stereotype for a reason, like the sort of like female love interest to only bring fuel to the male character. But I think she is a stronger character than someone else might have written her as, because she like stands up for herself, talks back, says what's on her mind, that kind of stuff.
I'll give you a point because
Yes.
not that there's points. No, oh man, I was gonna argue that she was a manic pixie dream girl, but then you pointed out that she had logic behind her decision of him not winning, and then actively, for the story, he had to win then. So a point to you. Kirk's got 1 point. I think I have.
I'm not keeping track.
No, the linear listeners are doing it. Don't worry.
All right, they're doing it for us? Okay.
The linear listeners are doing it for us. Did you have any topics you want to debate hard about this movie? Nothing soft, only hard. Maybe Joshua and the Amorites and how you studied that, your Christian upbringing?
What?
What is that? Oh, you mean like when he says like, oh, if God would
me of a
just
story.
stop time so I could have, this night could go on forever. I don't know. I think this dialogue is so smart and funny. And you, before we started, you said that it wasn't as clever as you remember it being.
Yeah, I don't
Please
think it
do
was
tell me
clever.
about that, because I was so
'cause
charmed by this all over again when I watched it.
Before I saw it the second time, I just thought, I don't remember him lying about his lineage. Because I thought he
Well, that's like
went...
the whole point of the movie.
Yeah, but he wasn't, it wasn't that, I don't remember him being noble. He wasn't that low, though. He was just, I don't know, middle tier or whatever. And then this helped him get a leg up. And then he became more noble.
That's the only thing
Yeah.
that works with the historical context, because only nobles were allowed to do the jousting.
Yeah.
It's like how only rich people do polo today.
Only ritual polo.
But how does that make it less clever?
When I first saw it, I didn't think he was trying to get noble. I thought he was just trying to change his ways or his lifestyle in some ways, Mm-hmm. I don't call them sidekicks, but they're kind of sidekicks. I thought they had a bigger role, but they're kind of in the background. They don't do as much as I remember they did.
So,
they're
like-
good. They're great characters.
It's so great. Oh, it's so good. This movie's so quotable, endlessly quotable.
It
Also,
was almost a TV show on ABC. I'm going to get back to how I can tell you the dialogue's worse, but
on the TV show?
Wow.
no, there was no TV show of this. It was going to be a TV show in 2012 on ABC, but they didn't go forward with it, kind of like they didn't go forward with the sequel that the original director proposed to Netflix.
That's a bummer.
there-
I'd be curious about the sequel.
What?
I'd be curious about a sequel.
Maybe he should probably just release it as a book or a comic book, and then if it sold enough, then you could get your 10 episode Netflix. Who cares? I mean, I genuinely would watch a night TV, because I was trying to think of other like night movies, medieval time movies, and it feels like not a well-mined. There's more cowboy things than there are that. I can think there used to be a whole category of swords and sandals movies, and I guess there were night movies maybe back more in the day. So this movie is playing off, it's standing on the shoulders of what came before it, in that the moon line, when he's quoting the Bible, so stealing from the Bible, and then the moon line is like It's a Wonderful Life, like, oh honey, you see the moon, I drag the moon up there.
Yeah.
See, yeah, bring it out. That's what that line is. It's just less, as good as Jimmy Stewart is.
Yeah, but what's your problem with the line, though?
It's
not as
an
good?
adaptation of that line from It's a Wonderful
Yeah,
Life.
but
You think it's
technically-
cheesy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
I mean,
that stuff doesn't work
he's
on me.
not he's not good at being romantic. Obviously, that's why he says
Or
like
saying
your
poetry, yeah.
face will be reflected in the flanks of my horse. Like the whole point is that he's rather bumbling.
Mm-hmm.
He's good at sporting, and that's like,
He's a jock.
yeah, he is.
So
And-
this movie is about falling in love with a jock, huh?
Oh yeah, which is like they're just attracted to each other because like he's cute and she's hot. Like you don't really get beyond that. Like
Yeah.
you don't really see much character development on anyone really, other than Adamar's squire or his announcer person. You see his confidence really grow out throughout the film, which I
Yes.
think is just charming and fantastic.
Wait, Adamar's squire.
You know, the other herald
Yes.
who is like the blonde guy who's just always kind of like
He comes up
fumbling
before Vision and
he like starts being a really bad herald, and then when he sees Chaucer being so brilliant at it, he starts to like question his ways, and then he like tries to test it out, and Chaucer's like messing with him with the light in his eyes, and then by the end he gives one last announcement, and like the crowd cheers, and he has this such a proud, he's just like, I did it. It's like, and then at the end he claps for Will when he wins. And
I interpreted his speech a different way than you did, because I went like, what a silly guy, like A, being goaded by Chaucer, and then B, that he's like, oh, am I gonna do it? Like the whole point of getting good at it is that you don't care and you just do it well, you know.
Well, if you're secure, but he's not. So this is while they're all winning battles, it's like, Harold against Harold, and like he didn't realize he had anything to be better at until Chaucer just like dropped the mic.
You feel empathy towards him. I looked down on him. It's not a debate here. Sorry.
I think that again is a reflection of
me,
our personalities and how we view humanity and such, perhaps.
Well, you see, and that's why I wanted something like socioeconomic out of the movie instead of more of an arc. I guess you can put more onto people when they aren't as deep, since you have made that claim about Heath Ledger and his merry band of fellows and gal help him joust. Team. I should have just said team.
Team, yes.
Yeah.
This movie is still rather dated, and later in the movie when they're all talking about like when Jocelyn is really putting him through the ringer of losing, and then Wash and Roland are like, ugh, women, right? And Kate's standing right there, and she's kind of like,
that's funny. It
is funny, but it's that like ever so slightly like of the early 2000s. But again, it like I feel like this movie pushes things forward just a teensy bit with her, Kate, being able to like push back and be like, sort of responses. I think is good.
So to your point earlier, like, have we gotten better in 25 years in terms of the feminist movement? Not that I'm arbiter of, just an observer and interested in discussing for the sake of growth and learning. The point of that joke, not that I like to dissect jokes, but the point is they're wrong. Like, they're the asses there. And that's a good form of comedy, because the point of the joke is the side you would want people to fall on, which is, it shouldn't matter if it's a guy or a girl doing something, right? Obviously, in this circumstance, it's due to a romantic whatever, and she's asserting herself, and you've convinced me on that not being as terrible as it was. I really was pretty negative that night. I was like, what is she doing? Why would you do this to somebody? But it's a kid's movie. I kind of just go, well, it's for kids. But, oh, man, should we be telling kids this?
I wouldn't classify as a kid's movie.
It's not a kid's movie.
Teenagers are kids to me. Anyone under 26 is a child to me.
I wouldn't say a teenager movie either. It's a little bit adult.
Teenagers? She was 16.
Yeah,
wait,
but I don't know if
you were...
it's a teenager movie, though.
In 2000?
2011, 2001, when you saw it at theater, you were probably like 13,
I didn't see it
14?
in a theater. I saw it on DVD.
Oh, okay. So how old were you when you saw it? Were you a teen when you saw it? I'm only trying to win the bait against him that you saw it when you were a teen.
Today's 2024. Nope,
no,
not
I'm
42.
saying it's not a kid's movie. It's not a teenager movie either. Maybe, what do you classify? Young adult? I don't know.
I think it's just a general audience movie.
Oh,
definitely not for its kids.
Yeah,
definitely not a teen movie. It's not like a YA sort of movie. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how old I was in.
Okay, so you're saying it's like for people in their 20s versus somebody who's like 15?
Yeah.
I don't see a difference between someone who's 15 and someone who's 20 in terms of like their emotional growth to that point in their life. And I'm not trying to dunk on people. I'm like, if you're working with a 15 or a 20-year-old, which we all have in our work as making movies, I wouldn't treat them much differently. And if you're a 15 or 20-year-old hearing this, yes, I see you as a child and want to respect your journey through life that way.
Certainly, I've lost the thread this because I was trying to math.
How old are you?
In 2000, I was 9 years old.
Whoa, okay.
So I must have not seen it until I was probably 14, 15, 16, somewhere in that. So I saw it on DVD quite a while later.
So you did see it as a teen?
I did.
That's not the argument.
But that doesn't mean that it was made for teens. Yeah. It's just I saw it as a teen because that's when it was out and popular.
Wait. Oh, so it was popular after the fact of when it came out. I think that's part of it too. And like who it was popular with, in my experience, was women. Yeah, I know. I eventually saw it, and again, for me, 2 years after a movie coming out and seeing it's a pretty long time.
Can I just say the title, A Knight's Tale, does not sound like a movie targeted towards women.
I guess most of the people in my advanced classes were
Wow.
women.
Brag about it. Yeah.
Like that's
My advanced classes.
I think I'm being serious. When I think of who, like, of the 5 people who had better grade, I was in a class of like 115 or something like that. So there were at least with grade points, I was probably in the top quarter. And of the people who were in classes with me that were the hard classes, a majority of them were women. So, and I associated like being good at English and reading a lot, oh, I'm reading Chaucer because with the women in my class. I think this is, and I'm lucky to have gone to a good public school that had advanced classes that had children of professors who I associated this with. So, but I had the youth group experience you had too.
I think your perception on it being geared that women liked it is just skewed because you were around women who liked it. So it's just
It's so simple a child could watch it though. Like, wouldn't you say like a 6-year-old could watch this movie and it's like not?
They can watch it. I don't think that they understand it though that much. They might not get the jokes.
And they fight.
I don't know. They probably have fun
might get the jokes. Yeah.
I don't know.
Or even the women line that Mark Addy says.
Well, and that's where I see how I would approach this with my children. Maybe we should end on this unless you guys have anything else. Is I would say, there's been a time where people weren't treated as equally. And you can even watch movies that, like, this movie's from 50 years ago. So, like, whoa. And then this movie's from 25 years ago. And they don't really understand that, but you start to understand it when you've lived more time. That's why I would give more grace to I would give as much grace to a 15 or 20-year-old, less so to a 25-year-old.
If I were to show kids this movie, like my niece or nephew, I would tell them this is not how we treat women back then. I would preface that. It's not the movie's job to do that. It's my job.
Everything exists in a context, and as the elder generation, we should be setting there's a post-credit scene to this movie?
Yeah, they all sit around and have a farting competition. It's pretty great.
I don't think I didn't watch this in my rewatch. Dang it. Okay, everyone. I made a mistake.
Yeah, you have to watch it all the way through the credits. It's like very, very end. It's not even it's not like mid credits or anything. Watt's part is the smallest and it's very funny. I want to know if that was scripted or, well, obviously they like filmed it, but.
Did they think to do it after the fact? Yes, I think that was probably maybe not in the script, and it was a little thing they got on set. And
Sure.
And that's fantastic.
It is.
Truly fantastic.
To your point about it, like explaining it's your job to explain to your kids, nieces, nephews, like the ethics of any film or book or whatever. I agree. I also don't think it's not like to our society's discredit. It's not like how Jocelyn is treated in this is like that out of the norm for like a current movie.
That's common.
It's pretty like could have been made today, and I don't think people would have been like, oh, can you believe? Oh, it's aged so poorly. Like things should be progressed further, and that's what I feel frustrated about so many movies and books and stories not having more of a feminist empowerment idea behind it. But this doesn't seem out of place. Like you watch Friends and there's like all sorts of jokes all over the place where you're like, ugh.
Well, yeah.
And so this isn't that. This is just kind of like, oh, it's
I wouldn't show Friends to my kids. I'll put it that way.
Sure. I don't know. I just don't. This one doesn't seem like it takes that much. A kid isn't going to watch this and be like, wow, why did he think she's hot and that's the only reason they're into her? That's just still happening now. I don't know.
Movies.
Yeah.
Movies do that.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So it's not like it should be more equality and she should have more of an arc, but it's more about the point of not everyone in this day and age could just be whatever they wanted to. It had to do with your social economic situation. That's what maybe kids wouldn't understand as much.
I can't believe I'm about to argue in favor of the romantic comedy of this movie, but like it maybe isn't just that they're just attracted to each other. He doesn't know how to express, as you've stated, but he does respect it beyond being attracted to her, which Scott Galloway, Prof G, would say you have to start with being attracted to them as a man. So that's part of it.
Or any person, yes.
Yes, but then they engage in a relationship, and through this, like the romantic comedy elements of this movie are, again, that's why I think it's for children, because an adult, like either an adult who's trying to turn their brain off or somebody who's somewhat simplistic would think that this is, because what we would, I hope in a modern romance, you want to see more complexity. Am I hearing you correctly?
I mean, I think in any story that'd be nice, but going back to like what this movie is, it's a fun action movie. I don't think it needs like
Oh,
huge
okay.
layers of depth. I'm just saying that the level of how they treat women, this is not not that scandalous compared to our current day and age.
Is it more of an action movie than a comedy?
Maybe.
Yeah,
There's
probably.
I'd say that. I mean, comedy is sprinkled all the way through, but I don't think comedy is its focus.
Yeah, okay.
I would argue maybe more of a sports movie for sure. I don't know. Would you consider the jousting actiony?
It's
Well,
sports. Yeah.
sports action, I kind of put
Oh.
those in like a similar.
I see.
Yeah, you know, like
It's a
part of the
subgenre.
game. Yeah.
It's not like action adventure like superhero, but sport is an action, I guess.
Yeah.
To sport, you know.
Now we've come all the way to what is an action movie, so let's cap it there. Unless you guys have anything else.
Well,
Last
Alex, do you
words
have
from our
anything else?
guest, please.
Yeah, you'd like to-
we'll end it on you.
That's a lot of pressure.
There's another episode after this, so you can just encourage people to listen to the interview section.
Oh, that's not happening here. That's a separate thing.
There's 3 episodes per week. It's the non-spoiler, spoiler, and then the interview
Oh,
on
got
Friday.
it. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. That's a fun format. I like that. No, this was a lot of fun, and thanks for letting me do a movie that is not in theaters right now, but I think it's a lot of fun. So.